My name is Pat Coffey. I'll be leading tonight. So tonight I will be offering a brief sketch of kind of what Buddhism is. We'll be doing some guided meditations, which might extend a little longer, but there will be breaks in between to give a flavor of some of the various practices. And then hopefully we'll have a little time for questions and discussion. But before we begin, today is one day removed from Veterans Day, and I just wanted to start there. Yesterday was the 101st anniversary of the end of the Great War. At the time, after that war, people called it the war to end all wars. Well, we know how that turned out. And so in reflecting on that, Veterans Day brings up a lot of emotions and considerations for many of us. But I was reflecting on the Buddha's concept of the three poisons, and how those energies will drive some of the challenging situations that humankind are confronted with throughout history. This isn't anything new, you know. So the unbridled greed, which he considered one of the poisons, you know, the never having enough, trying to accumulate more and more resources beyond what one needs. Today we talk about footprint, etc. The desire for increasing power and control. That's the energies of greed. They come in different flavors. The Buddha talked about the energies of aversion, which have to do with hatred, revenge, fear, guilt, shame, you know. And the third of the poisons he talked about is delusion. Just not understanding, in a sense, not understanding fully the way nature works. Kind of deluded in our thinking. You might look at our world today. Is it possible to have an ever-increasing expansion of economies across the world? Is that sustainable? These are the questions that the Buddha saw as really critical reflections all those years ago for humankind. And so let's just take a moment and reflecting in terms of what Veterans Day might mean to you. And for me, there are all the participants in these wars. And it's been estimated since the beginning of World War I that over 200 million people have been killed on this planet through warfare up to the present day. And most of those people, those combatants, were young people sent to war by their elders for one reason or another, where disagreements never got worked out and warfare ensued. You know, and then considering what today we call, quote unquote, collateral damage on the civilian population, you know, the untold suffering and pain of refugees, displaced people. When there's a war zone, there's often famine and disease. The massive loss of loved ones and an orderly, safe life. And all of this, if we look back into the teachings of the Buddha, driven by greed, sometimes driven by hatred, fear, revenge, driven by delusion. You know, so those energies are our challenge. How are we going to work with them as a species? How are we going to come to grips with them and not have them just automatically, reflexively, conditionally affect the way we think, speak, and act. So let's have just a moment of silence before we begin our meditation on Veterans Day. Thank you. So the meditation that I'm going to offer today will give a flavor of some of the basic practices in Buddhism that are, and the Buddha offered like 50 different meditations or some number that support the development of both wisdom and compassion. So this will be just a little sampling. We will then take a little stretch break, a short stretch break. I'll guide you in a stretching either in your seat or just standing up. And then we will do a loving kindness meditation, which is directed at exercising the capacities of the heart, compassion, love, etc. So finding a position that allows you to be both alert and relaxed. It's that middle way. Just enough effort put into your posture to create alertness, but not becoming stiff. So if you're in a chair, and we all have different bodies, see what might be possible. Do you need to lean against the back of the chair? Is there greater alertness sitting toward the front? Just experiment a little bit. Postures remains important even in spiritual practice. There's something uplifting about a regal posture that affects both heart and mind, as opposed to a slumped posture. Probably a lot of our mothers told us that. So finding that regal, alert but relaxed countenance, actually reflecting the real kind of essence of meditation, where we are both alert, very awake, and tranquil, relaxed. So now bringing attention home here in this body. Simply feeling the aliveness. This aliveness that has been gifted to you for yet another day. And I enjoy beginning my meditations with a few moments of gratitude, considering a couple of things in my life that I'm grateful for. It does not have to be anything grand or elaborate. So I invite you. What are you grateful for? Reflecting on gratitude at any time has a way of brightening the mind. It's like fresh bedding for the mind. Okay. Now we're going to spend some time bringing some tender attention to this body. So bringing attention now to the forehead. And invite ease and a smoothing of the forehead. All the wrinkling of the brow, figuring out things today. Just inviting ease. And allowing that gentle attention now to move into the eyes. Experiencing the eye sockets and inviting the eyes to rest. You might also envision a slight smile at the corners of the eyes as a way of enhancing receptivity. And allowing that soft attention now to move across the face, all the facial muscles. Inviting a softening, a letting go, a letting be. And some meditators enjoy putting a very slight smile on the lips. It actually releases some positive chemicals in the brain when we smile. That's why we enjoy it. And bringing attention to the entire head now. Feeling the aliveness and the sides of the head, the ears, the back of the head. What do you notice? And extending that mindfulness to the neck and shoulder region, an area that many of us hold tension in. So, inviting release, seeing if it's possible for the shoulders to let go, maybe another millimeter or two, to relax, soften. And experiencing the neck and shoulders from the inside. Both the spaciousness and the aliveness within the neck and shoulders. And allowing that gentle, caring attention to cascade down the arms, both arms. Experiencing them from the inside out. The volume of space in the arms and the aliveness. And the wrists. And allowing attention to rest for a few moments in the hands. Inviting a softening there and experience each of the fingers. And now bringing attention to the area of the ribcage as we continue our self-compassionate exploration of the body. You might notice the gentle rising and falling of the ribcage with each breath, expanding and relaxing. Allowing your attention to explore within the ribcage, offering care to all those organs that have somehow kept going all these years. You might feel some appreciation. And now inviting that gentle attention into the lower portion of the torso, the belly, the sides, the small of the back. And seeing if it's possible tonight to soften the belly just a little bit more. Another place where tension is held. Just inviting a release on that exhale. And allowing your attention now into the region of the hips. Experiencing the hips from the inside. And the buttocks and genitals. And now bringing attention to both legs. Experiencing again the volume of space in the legs and the aliveness. And for a few moments, resting attention in the feet. It might be a little more challenging to feel each of the toes. Feeling the aliveness in the feet from the inside. And now, as a further offering of self-care or compassion, bring that gentle attention to any part of your body that is wounded or might be in need of a little TLC. Not trying to fix anything. Just bringing that gentle attention, just as you would to a friend who was suffering. Just showing up, standing by, is often all that is required. Now, as important in most meditation practices, there is the endeavoring to bring together the energies of the heart and mind. And many meditators are supported by creating an anchor for their attention. And many people use the breath. There can be many anchors, sound, kind of sensations in the body. But the breath is used by many people. And so you can bring your attention to the breath and explore the complete cycle of the breath, if you like. As the air enters the nostrils and moves down the throat and fills the lungs and belly, and then empties. Or maybe you might enjoy just the touch of the air on the nostrils as it moves in and out. Resting attention there. And some enjoy that movement of the ribcage. That very subtle expansion on the in-breath and relaxation on the out-breath. And some enjoy resting attention on the belly, kind of a larger home base, so to speak. The rising and falling of the belly. And still others enjoy the breath as if they are breathing through all the pores of the body. So resting attention on your home base. Exploring with interest. Coming up close to the breath, connecting with it, much like a warm embrace. Not too tight, not too loose. Connected. And sustaining that connection the best that you are able. And when you notice that the mind has found a story, planning, remembering, fantasizing, that is a moment of awakening. Because you've noticed. So in that moment, just pause. Feel the difference when you're awake again out of the story. Notice how that's different. And then before returning to your anchor, take a moment and relax. Maybe the muscles in the face or the shoulders. You might reinstall the smile on the lips, if that's helpful. And then when ready, landing again in the anchor. Gathering the energies of heart and mind gently. Waking up from the story without judgment. Noticing that awakening, that aliveness again, the senses, your presence in this room, alive. Relaxing. Some moments of self-compassion. And then bringing that attention together again on the anchor. Gently, without judgment. Now, as you're resting in the breath, should a phenomena arise that you determine to be strong enough, could be an emotion, a body sensation, simply allow the breath to recede to the background of your attention and offer that same gentle, caring attention to that phenomena that has arisen. Not grasping, not pushing away, allowing the rising and flowering of whatever has arisen. It too will pass. And when you judge that phenomena to be not predominant anymore, simply come back and rest in the breath. There's nothing outside of meditation practice. No emotion, sensation, or thought. Now, continuing our medley of meditation flavors, bring attention back into the body. Feel the whole body again. alive. And without efforting, allow your awareness to circulate in front of your body, feeling the space in front, kind of like opening a door, allowing the circulation of awareness in front of you. It might be comfortable a few inches or many feet. And now inviting the circulation of awareness behind you. Experiencing the space behind. And now opening the window to the left, allowing awareness to circulate in the space to the left. It's that same awareness that feels sensations in the body. And now to the right. And now allowing that awareness to experience the space below. Unhindered by chairs or floors. And now above. Experience that awareness within and without. Exploring. Does awareness really have a boundary? Does the outside feel different than the inside? Is there anything that awareness doesn't wash through? Okay. So we've explored some ways of meditating and bringing together the energies of the heart and mind. We've explored the application of self-compassion through the scanning of the body. And in the end, we've explored the nature of awareness a little bit. And so, Buddhism offers practices that cultivate wisdom and compassion. There's a little flavor of both in what we just did. But I want to spend a few minutes, but I think it'd be good to stand up, just very slowly and mindfully. And then we'll spend a few minutes directing attention towards loving friendliness, exercise of the heart. So let's just stand up. And one of the things that I found helpful is if you explore, especially as I get older, as you explore all the joints, see if you can find every joint and slightly move it. Maybe start with your fingers. Just each one. You know, it helps with the flow of energy and tranquility. And then the shoulders, just roll them in a way that feels good to you, both front and back, moving them around. I always feel at this age it's like a battle with rigor mortis. I have a temporary victories. And then kind of move the spine left and right a little bit. Just comfortable. See what you can move. Move the hips. These bodies have all these joints, and if they don't get moved, we know what happens. And the knees, kind of flex the knees a little bit. The toes, moving the toes and ankles. And the neck, gently moving the neck too, not forgetting it, but very careful as you move the neck. Just within the realm of safety and comfort, front and back, side to side. Maybe raising the arms up over the head a little bit. Stretching as high as you can. Leaning back just slightly. And then floating the arms down very slowly to the sides. Okay. And then returning to your seat, and we'll do a few minutes of what's known as loving kindness practice or loving friendliness practice. In Buddhism, there is a whole menu of practices for loving friendliness, compassion, joy, equanimity, kind of all the functions of the heart get special attention. So resting again in this body that's been moved slightly. And bringing your attention to the region of the heart. And as if you're breathing through that region. Seeing if it's possible this evening to touch into that reservoir of friendliness that we all have. Sometimes it gets covered over, we're anxious or under siege in some way. But it's there, and maybe it can be reached tonight. That reservoir of friendliness that wishes the best for you, for others, for all the beings that share this planet. And so we will bring to mind now a loved one. Could be a pet, even a plant that you've been with for a long time. And bring an image to your mind, and if visioning isn't your thing, a felt sense of what it's like to be near that loved one. And holding that vision, and with each exhale, extending care, your feelings of love and warmth to that individual, and surrounding them with that care and enveloping them with that. And I'll say some phrases and just continue to extend that care. You might reflect on the phrases. And in practices like these, generally folks make up their own phrases. These are just ones that I often use myself. So holding that image and extending with each breath that care. May you be filled with loving friendliness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy and come to know the true causes of happiness. So continuing to breathe through the heart. And bringing to mind now someone who you'd consider a benefactor, someone who has helped you along the way. Could be the same person from before, but choose someone who's reached out to you. And bring as clear a vision of them as you can in front of you. A felt sense of what it's like to be near them. And extending with each exhale your gratitude. And may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. and may you be happy, and may you come to know the true causes of happiness. And saying goodbye to your benefactor for now, and bringing to mind yourself, either in your 2019 version or as a younger person or a child or an infant. And bring that image up and invite to come and be with you, to sit with you, 2 or 3 beings who are meaningful to you. It could be religious figures, saints or sages. Could be ancestors or loved ones, pets. Just pick 2 or 3 and have them sit with you and creating, in a sense, a sphere of safety and acceptance. And spend some moments feeling their felt sense, seeing their face. Feeling the comfort in being in a space with them. Extending your mind's eye gaze from one to the other. See if it's possible to open and receive the love from those beings. Seeing if it's possible to open all the cells and allow that care to saturate. These beings know that in each moment of your life you did the best you could with what you had available. Of course, there is a lot of things you would change. But at the time, resources were limited. But these beings see you beyond that. They know the goodness. They offer unconditional acceptance and care. And so resting back in that care, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy and really come to understand the true causes of happiness. And so saying goodbye to those beings, and now just extending that care to all those in the room here tonight. Everyone here has experienced many joys and sorrows. So recognizing that shared humanity. And extending that care beyond this room and across our town and countryside and country. And tonight especially extending that care to all those who may be living in areas of war. Or in refugee camps. Or languishing in prisons. Extending that care to all those who may be dying alone this evening. With each breath extending outward in all directions. And also extending that care to all the leaders, those with power in this world. May they see clearly and move beyond their feelings of revenge and hatred. May they exercise their power compassionately and wisely. And extending that care to all the other creatures who share this planet, and this fragile, fragile biosphere. Those that fly, walk, swim, and are rooted in the ground. They all want what we want, to be safe and happy in their own way. And finally, extending that care back through time to our ancestors, back and back and back, generation after generation. It's their decisions and that allowed us to be and experience this life. And extending that care forward to all those yet unborn. And so may all beings be filled with loving friendliness. May all beings be well. May all beings be peaceful and at ease. May all beings be happy. And may all beings be free. So, oh my gosh. You realize how long y'all have been meditating? Over an hour. Doesn't leave me much to say in terms of time. We started a little late and maybe I got carried away. So, since we only have a few minutes left, why don't you just relax and I'll say a few things about our practice. And so for those that are new here tonight, there are many ways to practice. And we're engendering to cultivate greater wisdom and understanding and greater capacity to love. So it was 2,600 years ago that a flesh and blood person known as Siddhartha Gautama began his teaching career. It was a 45-year teaching career. That's a lot of teaching. For those of you who have been teachers, you can imagine what that's like, and some of you have done that, I know. He was born in what's known as, currently as Nepal, and his teaching was basically throughout northern India and Nepal and that area. And his challenge, like any teacher, was how to, and he practiced himself. And so he had these realizations, and there's the whole story, and I'm not going to go into it tonight, but his challenge was, how do you impart all this stuff to various people? He taught illiterate peasants, royalty, everybody in between, merchants, etc. And so his pedagogical challenge was really a stretch. You know, so many different people. How do you convey these nuanced practices and topics and view of the world? But he was into it. And there's lots of stories about the Buddha. You know, he never rode in an ox cart or on a donkey or a horse. He didn't want to burden the beasts of burden. He walked. He had a bad back, a chronic bad back. I think some of us can relate to that. And in the end, the kind of ignominious end, he died of food poisoning at age 80. And as a monk, they go on alms rounds, they take what's given and they eat it without question. As the story goes, some people say, well, somehow some poisonous mushrooms got mixed in. Some other people say it was bad meat, but he had an ending. So he was not a god, wasn't related to a god in any way. But he had developed a capacity to see and understand and feel really deeply. And so, what's interesting about Buddhism now is that it is a rich, complex system of practices and understandings. But the offshoot applications of Buddhism are rippling through, practices that started in Asia are now rippling through the West. And they show up in psychology and all these other various disciplines. And when I see them and understand them, whether it's mindfulness-based stress reduction or cognitive-based therapies or this or that, it's like, oh my gosh. It's another applied Buddhist, manifestation. And so the effect of these practices on us and in our culture, at least here, Europe, and a lot of the developed countries, is increasing. And I remember it was 10 or 15 years ago, there were a few papers on meditation and mindfulness that were being published in various journals. And I used to be able to keep up with them. Oh, look at this, here's an article. And now, I don't even try. There's like dozens each month that are published. Mindfulness for this application, for addiction, for blood pressure, for this, for that, all these applications. It's just a flood. But I don't need scientists to tell me that these practices are beneficial. And I was thinking as I was putting this kind of presentation together, I'm approaching like 50 years of being interested in meditation and practicing various kinds of different forms, Zen, Tibetan, this Theravadan practice. So it's becoming accepted that there's benefit in these practices. But what's the core of the presentation of Buddhism? What is it? It's not just how to make yourself calm down and reduce stress, although that's a great entry point. That's wonderful. The Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth being, guess what? There's suffering, there's unsatisfactoriness in this world. You get born, you're going to have your measure of that. That's just the way things are set up. It's like we can't avoid that. I mean, sometimes you don't get what you want, and sometimes you get something you don't want. Maybe an accelerated aging or sickness or, your impending death or the loss of loved ones. It's just part of life, part of nature. The second noble truth is that there's actually a cause for suffering, and especially the kind of suffering that gets added on, that we add on by our mind. Now we're going to have pains, and this body's going to get old, etc., etc. And if we're trying to hold on to something that's pleasurable and set all the conditions in our life to be pleasurable, it's a losing game. It's like holding on to a rope that's being pulled by an elephant. You're going to get rope burn because everything is changing. The pleasures, they come and they go. The good side of that coin is, so do the difficult situations. They're no more permanent than anything else. And so if we don't like the way things are, and we thrash around trying to get rid of them, it's kind of exhausting. We can do so much. But there's a lot of surrender in this practice, and recognizing when we're on the wheel of suffering, when we're just holding so tight to something, we want it to stay the way it is, or we want it to be a certain way. It's like if you notice when you're tight or just feeling yuck, it's like, okay, what am I wanting so much that I'm not getting? Or what do I have that I don't want? And generally, you'll find something. And just by knowing that, there's some freedom. There's in the naming and the knowing, oh yeah, look at me, I'm all torqued up because I'm not getting this. Or, oh, I'm getting this. I don't want to have a cold, or I don't want to have whatever it is. And I'm on top of just the cold, I'm a little pissed off because I have it, and etc. And so the third noble truth is that actually suffering can end. That there are ways to work with the conditions of life, not manipulating them. We can manipulate some of them, but hardly any, especially the big ones. But there is a way of training the heart and mind to be with the movements of nature that reduce and reduce and reduce suffering. And then the fourth noble truth is, hey, guess what? There's actually a path out of suffering, and a path that leads to greater wisdom, greater compassion, greater love, greater tranquility. And that it's been tried and exercised, and if a person is diligent and takes an interest and actually applies the right amount of effort, well, there are lots of benefits. And lo and behold, all the brain scientists, etc., and this and that are looking, oh my gosh, you do these practices and the actual neural structure of your brain changes. Your nervous system is transformed literally It's not some, non-cellular thing. It changes. It lights in different ways. Certain sections of the brain get thicker that have to do with resilience and the ability to deal with difficult situations. It goes on and on and on. It's like, whatever. So there is that path. And I was going to go into the Eightfold Path. I'm not going to do that because we just have a few minutes. But I do want to outline how a spiritual practice works. Buddhism isn't the only religion that has these elements. But there are three main elements, what I would call a bona fide spiritual practice. And a big one that is often missed when people come around meditation is personal integrity. A continued lifetime reflection on, am I causing harm or not? Are my thoughts, my speech, my actions inclining towards harm or harmony? Without that, you don't have a spiritual practice. You just don't. You may have stress control or this or that or the other thing. But that's an endless reflection. And in Buddhism, we don't have commandments, so to speak. But there are things that Buddha wanted us to reflect on. What's your relationship to killing? That's not so easy. First you think, well, I don't want to kill anything. Oh, well, what's my relationship to abortion? Capital punishment. Is it killing when I am harsh with a child that kind of cuts off something in them that never flowers? And what's my relationship to stealing or the utilization of resources? What's my relationship to speech? Is it moving towards harm or harmony? Speech is powerful. It can heal and it can create wars. There's a whole practice, around what the Buddha calls right speech. And also sexual activity. How am I with that? What am I promoting? What am I harming, etc. And then there's the taking of substances, the exploration of that. But so there's this personal integrity piece. That's a big one. Because if that's rocky, we're not going to be able to sit and meditate very well. The next area is what we could call training. Mental, emotional, and heart training. There are lots of practices. We're changing the nervous system, changing our perspective, working at it. The third area is the wisdom area. So if we're cleaning up our life a little bit, everybody knows what a vicious cycle is. You say something or do something, it makes a mess. Your whole vision narrows down. And then you say something or do something that makes it worse. And then you just get tighter and tighter. But this spiritual practice is a virtuous cycle. We're constantly cleaning, working at, looking at how we're operating in the world. Where we're doing harm, what can we do about it to ourselves or others? We're training ourselves. We're doing practices that engender greater love and compassion, clearer seeing. We're training, bringing the energies of the heart and mind together so that it's a useful tool that stays where we ask it to stay and penetrate what's true and what's not true so we can make wise decisions, skillful decisions out of a calmness, And so out of that comes what we call insights, the wisdom factor. You practice, and things will jump up in your mind. Oh, now I understand why that relationship is so screwed up. Or now I get this idea of impermanence. Why that's so important to kind of internalize that, because that's the way nature is. And if I fight against it, I'm going to suffer like crazy. So there are some insights. Those insights then come and inform the way we're living our life. So it gets a little cleaner. And as it gets a little cleaner, we're able to go deeper in our practices. Because we're not bothered because we're cheating, stealing, lying, and the other issues. Or shading things, or whatever it is that we're trying to clean up. So we go deeper. The insights become more profound. They affect us more deeply in how we operate in our relationships in life. Our training becomes even more profound. So it goes, this virtuous cycle. So when you think about your practice, it's like, what am I doing? Why am I wasting time? I could be like reading the latest stuff on the internet about politics or whatever the next show is, But it's the virtuous cycle. It does take some energy and attention. So that's what the Buddha was teaching. So, questions? Comments? Okay. Well, thank you, folks, for coming by and visiting with us. I hope you have some insight on what we do here a little bit. Welcome anytime. So, until next week, enjoy.